I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 and Dakota Nations territory, in the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. Today, the members of the panel to my left is Doug Marks, and to his left is Cynthia Stevens. And we have a new board member that's zooming in, and her name is Faye Branson. My name is Brent McIntyre, and I'll be chairing the meeting today. To the participant, Secretary of the board is Kara Balshaw, and the assessor Brian Valderrama. To the participants of the hearing, please note you are placed in the waiting room until your property is called upon. When it is your turn, you will be admitted into the meeting. Kindly follow along on the City of Winnipeg's Board of Revision YouTube channel for the hearing process. Once the host admits you into the hearing, please close or mute your YouTube player. You will then be permitted to speak with respect to your property. Once your hearing has concluded, you can leave the meeting. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. Statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence by the market value for the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Thank you. The first item on the docket is 1490 Plessis Road. And are there any preliminary issues?
Yes, there are, Mr. Chairman.
May I swear the parties in first, please?
We'll have you sworn in first, and Brian as well.
Okay.
Mr. Assessor, for the record, please state your name.
Brian Valderrama.
Do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And Mr. Applicant, for the record, please state your name.
Sydney Earl Story.
Do you affirm the evidence you will present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Brian, do you have any preliminary issues?
None, Mr. Chair.
No. Sid?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Ryan and I have been speaking. This particular property is assessed right now as land only, but there's a completed apartment building on the site. So we have determined that it's more appropriate that we wait for the SUP on this one. And with the board's agreement, Ryan and I have decided that we should ask the board just confirm the assessment for today, and we'll wait for the SUP.
Brian, are you okay with that?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And Doug, any questions?
None for me, thank you.
Cynthia?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, that concludes 1490 Plessis Road. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And our next applicant is here in the room.
And the next property is 1679 Pembina. And Jared, if you want to grab a seat.
Mr. Applicant, for the record, can you please state your name?
Jared Store.
Do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Ryan, 1679 Pembina Highway. Any preliminary issues?
None, Mr. Chair.
And Jared?
Nope, good to go. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Ryan, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The second one on the docket has a file number of 21-347. It has a roll number of 03092997055. It is located at 1679-1679 Pembina Highway. We're dealing with the roll year of 2022 using the reference date of April 1st, 2018. The total assessed value is $3,234,000, and it is split into two. The first one is $760,000, and the second one is $2,474,000. The $760,000 has a classification of institutional property with a liability of taxable. The other one has the assessed value is $2,474,000. It has a classification of institutional property with the liability of taxable school exempt. It is a nursing home with 1 story and 2 sections with effective years built of 1964 and 2001. It has a construction class of masonry bearing walls, a zoning of residential multifamily. It has a land area of 143,891 square feet, a planned area of 25,872 square feet. On page 2 are the pictures of the subject property. And on page 3 is the zoning, which has the property has a zoning of RMFS, which is described as the district is intended to accommodate development of multifamily units in neighborhoods with medium to high residential densities. On page 4, we have the cost valuation summary, giving it a total value of $3,234,000, split into a depreciated cost of building at $1,307,000 and a land value of $1,927,000. On page 5 is the cost summary by building section. There are 2. One has a replacement cost new less depreciation value of $1,080,000, and the other one is $209,000. On page 6, I do have the land sale comparables ranging from $10.95 up to $32.79. And on page 7 is the detached structures and land valuation. And on page 8 is the classification and liability allocation, the building and the land building summary. Starting from page 9 to page 11 are the pages from cost report. And on page 12 to page 14 is the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. And then I do have on page 15 the 3 approaches to value. And on page 17 is the municipal board decision regarding using cost on personal care homes, which includes the subject property. And that's my presentation, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Jared, any questions?
I have a few questions, thank you. Mr. Valderrama, the zoning on this property, you mentioned that it is residential multifamily, but further to that, it's RMFS, which is residential multifamily small. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and that affects the development capacity. Is that fair to say?
Yes, correct.
So the potential density maybe limited the number of units that can be built on this property based on its current zoning would be, just so we're very clear, it is on the, there's small, medium, and large. This is small. Fair to say?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Now, did you, have you visited this property?
No, I wasn't able to.
Okay, have you noticed though, through your photographs, that the Letellier line, the CN rail line, abuts the property at the back side of it? Are you aware of that?
Looks like in the picture, yes.
Okay, and based on the current regulations for setbacks, do you think that might affect development capacity just to some degree? Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And then less of a concern, but of interest, just north of the subject is the St. Vital Parish School. So proximity to a school may also put some limitations on development. Is that fair to say as well?
Maybe a limitation or maybe an advantage depending on the development, yes.
Okay, that's fine. Now, just for the purpose of this report, just so everyone's aware, we have reviewed the cost workup, and we're not disputing that. We're effectively just looking at the land. So the land calculation is what's in dispute here today. So Mr. Valderrama, if you come with me to page 6 in your land sales comps, were these comps picked for the sole purpose of reviewing this property?
These properties or land sales were picked by myself, and I deem that they are similar in terms of land area and, of course, geographical proximity to the property. It's a subject property.
Okay, so let's go through them. There's only a few, so we can go through them quickly. Is it fair to say that they're all superior in one way or another to our subject? Would that be fair to say?
I wouldn't say they're superior, they're comparable. There may be some slight adjustments needed, but in terms of superior characteristics, I feel that these are comparable in terms of the area, geographical proximity, and of course the date of sale. That's I also considered.
Okay, so if we just go through the land influence section here, it does. We do see that our subject has a rail line influence, which is negative. Now, comp 1, that's a river lot. That's generally considered a positive and would be superior. Is that fair to say?
Well, it depends on who's looking at it. I've heard some people say that it's a disadvantage, but I mean, it depends on who's looking at it. And I can't say, it's not fair for me to say that it is a disadvantage or an advantage.
Okay. All right. Now, the pond influence, that flows through 2, 3, and 4. Is that same answer, or do you think that might be a positive influence on value?
Again, it's the same answer.
Okay.
It's hard for me to determine if it's an advantage or disadvantage.
Okay, so one thing that jumped out to me right away was on comp 1, that sale price per square foot is, it's about 3 times higher than the next comp over. Did you review that sale, and did you look into that at all?
Yes.
Okay, so you're aware then that wasn't a sale of vacant land. That was a sale of the old Canad Inn. So it had a hotel, a restaurant, I guess what we'll best call a gaming lounge, and a nightclub on at the time of sale. Is that fair to say?
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. Comps 2 and 3. Now these are in. Just to be fair, comps 2, 3, and 4. Those are all in Bridgewater, correct?
Yes.
And that would generally be considered superior, would it not, to our subject?
Well, they're almost all in one geographical proximity, so it's within a market region, same market region.
Right. And I understand that it is, it's not simple to find land sales of this size, but we can agree that the Bridgewater development is likely a superior, more desirable area for development than our subject, correct?
I cannot agree to that statement, no.
Okay. So comps 2 and 3 were purchased on the same day April 1, 2014. Do you know if those were purchased by the same purchaser?
No, I'm not. I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't have the information with me on this evidence.
But if they were purchased by the same purchaser, typically you wouldn't use them because the IAAO standard would dictate that multi-role sales should be avoided, so to speak. Is that fair?
As I mentioned, there's no information in this evidence that I have in front of me, so I cannot answer that.
And the last one is Bison Drive, but it's not Bison Drive on Pembina. Again, it's Bison Drive in Bridgewater. And that's roughly half the size of our subject. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. I think those are all of my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug, any questions?
My question's been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Cynthia?
I'm just, so the zoning question that came up to your knowledge, what is, would this be the same type of property that could be built as on your comps? So on this particular property, the vacant land, would it be the same type of residential that could be built on the comps that you have?
Yes, based on the zoning, personal care homes, including the subject property, which is a nursing home, is a permissible use.
Okay, and so, and if I'm looking at your square footage prices here on your comparables, they're kind of vary widely here. So is the number that you came up for the for the subject property, was that model driven?
It is model driven, yes,
Yeah,
correct,
okay.
madam.
Yeah, okay, thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you.
And I just have one question on your land sales comparables.
Yes, sir.
Three of the sales are in 2014. Is there any time adjustment applied to bring the sale to April 1st, 2018?
I believe there's none, Mr. Chair, on that one. It's solely based on whatever sale price that occurred during that day.
So you haven't time adjusted to bring it to the valuation date?
No, it's not on this evidence. It's not included, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. And Jared, you're up.
Thank you so much. Okay, so again, we are at 1679 Pembina. This is not the riverside, but rather the rail line side of Pembina. That's south of Chevrier on the west side of Pembina Highway. And again, the site is improved with a personal care home with approximately 25,872 gross area. And this is what we would typically call the older style of personal care homes built in the lodge style in 1964. And we note that there was a laundry facility built in the early 2000s. However, we're simply discussing the matter of the land calculation. The size, according to the Winnipeg City of Winnipeg records, is 143,891 square feet with RMFS zoning. And again, we are adjacent to the Pembina Highway on the east and the Letellier line on the west. So, just in the interest of narrowing our issues, we're disputing the land calculation used by the city. So we've presented our own set of land comparables. Now, this does give you a very wide range, and it is. I appreciate the challenge of finding comps that are best suited to this particular parcel. But we've included 10 comparables here. They generally have some issue, whether it be with access or egress or potential setbacks. For example, Comp 2 has I believe it's indices 2. Has a setback issue, you can see. So what's interesting about the rail yard setbacks is that they would not have been in play in 1964 when this property was built, but any infill going forward will be subject to those what we'll call development impediments. And I've included some information on the mandatory setbacks. With all that being said, I think the comps that I would focus on most on here are number 2 and number 4. They are into Bridgewater, into that general area. Currently they have agricultural zoning, but there are development plans as far as I understand to develop them. So those comps range between 755 and 1017. Mr. Chair, you noted land time adjustments. We have not time adjusted these sales either. But we do see a range then using those two best comps in this universe, ranging between 755 and 1017. So, and actually, if you average them together, you come to 842. So, for the purpose of this report, we're using $9 per square foot for the land. So, with that being said, we are requesting. We've got the calculation in brief, but the short story here is that we believe that the institutional school tax exempt portion not to exceed $2,090,000. With the institutional taxable portion not exceeding 512, bringing us to a net quantum of $2,602,000. And we do respectfully submit that the value be adjusted for the 2022 tax year. And again, this is simply based on an adjustment to the land rate per square foot. So barring any questions, that is my presentation, and thank you.
Thank you. Doug, any questions?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Cynthia?
No, I'm good, thanks.
And I have no questions. Ryan,
Mr. Chair,
any questions?
yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair.
No, that's okay. It was my mistake.
Okay, just question on zoning. On Mr. Story mentioned that the closest comparable land sale on his page 7 would be the comparable sales 2 and 4. Is that correct, Mr. Story?
That's correct. And I did mention that they currently have agricultural zoning, but this is an area that's being developed. So
I do understand that. The zoning question would be, was it during the time of sale
yes,
that the zoning was agricultural?
The zoning was agricultural at the time of sale, and my understanding is that this purchase was made in order to develop. So, yeah.
And looking at these comparable sales, if we would be looking at the same zoning as the subject property or the land of the subject property, which is RMF in general, would you say that comparable land sales that are zoned agricultural may be out, and including the R1L?
No, I don't think they would be out. I think that it would be. It may be maybe easier on some level to have a development application go through with a change in zoning. It would require a variance to be certain, but we know that this area is being developed. So
right.
I don't think that that's out of bounds by any stretch of the imagination. No.
Okay, sounds good. So yeah, if I'm looking at the price per square foot, comparable sales 1, 2, and 10, they are all a bit far from the average of between $10.17 to $17.08. Is it 08? Yeah. Would it be fair to say that they're more of like an outlier?
Well, okay, so we're both using a spread on these comps that is quite wide, and I think what we're
right.
likely both doing is showing that there is a universe for these sales. We have to look to reasonable proximity and size. Size is going to be an issue, and then also development potential or development capacity. So yes, I agree with you, but I'm not using, for example, 373, the sale in St. Norbert, and we're not using the one in St. Pierre. We're simply showing the universe of sales in the relevant time period, and then drilling down again, as I said, on sale 2 and 4. So, and again, if you, and they are, those parcels are very close. So one sold for 1017, one sold for 755. The average of the two of them taken together is 842. We believe that supports a rate of $9 for the subject. I think that's reasonable.
Okay, I see. And with the comparable sale number 4, you mentioned it's the one that's closer to the subject land subject property. Correct? That's the one that you're pinpointing. Aside from the comparable sale number 2, right?
Yeah, those are the two that we're putting most weight on effectively for the purpose of this.
So in terms of size, the Bison one is maybe close to 143,891 square feet, right? Without going over.
Well, that's an interesting point. So if ours is 143 and the one that you're mentioning, number 4, is 108, I think that actually supports the rule of economies of scale. Right.
Yeah, that's correct. And so it is zoned agricultural. So in order for it to be zoned as an RMF, would there be development costs associated with it, thereby increasing the value
Well,
of
there's development
this
costs in
land?
there's development costs in developing any parcel of land, and certainly there would be costs in, if we were looking at our subject, you'd also be looking to demolish an existing improvement. And it's
No.
interesting because we're looking, if we circle back to one of the comps in your chart, we see a very, very high cost per square foot. And that's based on a sale where there has to be demolition, right? So what I would suggest to you is, even though the zoning is agricultural on those two, this is an area that is currently being developed. So we are sitting with a RMFM as small scale development, where when a development application goes through for 2 or 4, they might apply for RMFM-L or RMFM-M, which would provide a higher density. You could build more units, so the value would become higher, to be certain. But we're just looking at land sales here to develop an understanding of what this parcel might go for as if vacant.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Doug, any questions?
No, thank you.
Cynthia?
No, thank you.
And I have no questions. So that concludes this matter. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Jared.
Our last applicant is joining us by Zoom without a video feed, but he's here now. Graham, I believe. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if we are going to actually hear this, I will have to recuse myself, as I'm on the board of the Foundation for Review.
Okay, do you want to give us just a 5 minutes?
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt. We are just confirming for now, if that's, I don't
I'm sorry, I missed that when you sent me the agenda, my apologies.
I'll probably just remove you anyways.
Yeah.
Just fine. I don't think you need to leave if that's all that's happening.
Okay.
My apologies for not noticing that when I looked at the agenda.
Okay, Ryan, the next property is 1 Morley Avenue. If you want to read in just the particulars of the property for the record.
Oh, actually, before you do that, Mr. Assessor, I'll just affirm Graham.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Mr. Applicant, for the record, please state your name.
Bram Neufeld?
And do you affirm the evidence you'll present today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would you want me to go through the evidence, or is Bram having is he gonna say something about, or I don't know how to proceed. Bram mentioned that they'll be requesting
I think he's requesting
confirmation on both.
Yes.
1 Morley and 44 Furby, right?
Yes, both properties for
Okay.
Morley and Furby, yes.
Okay,
These are both care homes that we've already have quite a few at the municipal board that we are hoping to wrap up altogether.
Okay, sounds good.
Ryan, if you want to read in the particulars for 1 Morley first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'll go through page 1 of my brief, if that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Okay. So the next one on the docket has a file number of 21-234. It has a roll number of 12000658100, located at 1 Morley Avenue. We're dealing with the roll year of 2022, using the reference date of April 1st, 2018. The total assessed value is $48,103,000, with 3 split assessments. The first assessment value is $29,758,000, which is classified as institutional property and a liability of exempt. The second one has an assessed value of $15,653,000, with a classification of institutional property and a liability of taxable school exempt. And the last assessment on this property is valued at $2,692,000, with a classification of institutional property and a liability of taxable. The property type is a nursing home with stories of 1 to 4 and 10 sections. It has an effective years built of 1918 and 1999. Has a masonry bearing wall with a zoning of EI or educational and institution. It has a land area of 1,026,368 square feet, a planned area of 139,212 square feet, and a basement area of 32,193 square feet. It also has a gross floor area of 386,684 square feet.
Thank you very much. And Bram, if you want to restate your position on this one.
Yes. So, as before, yes, we would like to. We're seeking confirmation on the assessment.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? And I have no questions. The next property is 44 Furby Street. And again, Ryan, can you read in the particulars?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next property has a file number of 21-233. Has a roll number of 12090331700. It is located at 44 Furby Street. We're dealing with the roll year of 2022, using the reference date of April 1st, 2018. The assessed value is $10,437,000. The property has a split assessment. The first assessment has an assessed value of $232,000, classified as an institutional property with a liability of exempt. And the second assessment has an assessed value of $10,205,000, with a classification of institutional property and a liability of taxable school exempt. The property is a nursing home with 1 to 3 stories, with 2 sections, with an effective year built of 1999. It has a construction class of masonry bearing walls, a zoning of EI or educational and institution, and a land area of 56,920,000 square feet. It has a planned area of 22,795 square feet, a basement area of 5,000 square feet, and a gross floor area of 72,909 square feet.
Thank you. And Bram, can you state your position on this matter?
Yes. Once again, we'd like to confirm the assessment.
Thank you very much. That concludes this property. We have heard all the items scheduled today, and this hearing is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bram.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Have a good day.